The champagne glass shattered against marble as Preston Hawthorne's hand connected with his pregnant wife's face. Grace crumpled, blood trickling from her lip, while 200 of Dallas's elite pretended not to see. But one man saw everything. Logan Price, the janitor. Nobody noticed, felt his phone burn in his pocket and his son's voice echo in his head. "You're my hero, Dad." He stepped forward into the light, and in that moment, everything changed. Before we begin, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. This story will shake you to your core, and I promise you'll want to see how it ends. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels across the world. "She's pregnant, sir. Please stop." 5 words. That's all it took to light the fuse that would blow apart a billion-dollar empire. 5 words Logan Price thought might be the last he'd ever speak as a free man. His voice cut through the Hawthorne Tower ballroom like a gunshot through silk, and suddenly the whole world stopped spinning. Preston Hawthorne froze mid-strike. His hand hung in the air like a conductor's baton suspended in that terrible moment between violence and consequence. Below him, his wife Grace lay crumpled on the polished marble, her crimson evening gown spread around her like spilled wine. Blood ran from her split lip down her chin. Her hand clutched her swollen belly. 200 guests stood motionless, champagne flutes halfway to lips, conversations severed mid-word. Even the orchestra had gone silent, the conductor's baton lowering slowly, as if the music itself had died of shame. Preston turned. His face belonged on magazine covers and corporate billboards, all sharp jawline and practiced charm, but right now, it looked carved from ice. "What did you just say?" Logan's heart tried to hammer its way out of his chest. He wore the gray shapeless uniform of the invisible, his name stitched over the pocket in thread that had started to fray. Logan, custodial staff. He'd been emptying champagne glasses into a rolling bin when he saw it happen. The slap, the fall, the silence that followed like a held breath. "I said she's pregnant. You need to stop." Grace looked up at him from the floor. Her eyes were dark pools of terror and something else. Disbelief, maybe, or hope. He couldn't tell if she was begging him to continue or begging him to run while he still could. Blood dripped from her mouth onto white marble, each drop spreading like a flower blooming in fast motion. Preston's laugh sounded like breaking crystal. "Do you have any idea who I am?" "Yes, sir. You're Preston Hawthorne. You own this building. Half of Dallas, probably. That tower on Commerce Street with your name in gold letters 15 feet high." Logan's hands shook, but he kept his phone steady, the red record light glowing in the chandelier-dimmed ballroom. "But that doesn't give you the right to hit your wife." The collective gasp rippled through the crowd like a wave. Someone's glass hit the floor. The sound echoed like a starting pistol. Preston's face transformed from pale to crimson in the space of a heartbeat. "You're recording this? You're recording me?" "Yes, sir." "Do you have any idea what I can do to you?" Preston's voice dropped to that dangerous quiet that meant real violence was coming. "I can end your pathetic little existence with one phone call. I can make sure you never work again anywhere in this state. I can make sure your family starves in gutters." "Who the hell do you think you are?" Logan thought about Caleb. His 8-year-old son was probably asleep right now in their 2-room apartment on the east side, curled around his stuffed elephant. Caleb, who'd drawn a picture last week with crayons stolen from school. Logan in his janitor uniform with a red cape taped to his back. The title in crooked letters, "My Dad the Hero." 3 years ago, Logan's ex-wife had walked out during Caleb's 5th birthday party. Just stood up in the middle of singing happy birthday and said, "I can't do this anymore," and left. Haven't heard from her since. Logan had held his sobbing son that night and promised him something. "I'll always be here, buddy. I'll always do what's right, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." "I'm nobody," Logan said quietly. "But I'm a father, and I'm teaching my son that you don't hit women. You don't hit pregnant women. You especially don't hit your wife." Preston moved forward fast. He was taller than Logan, broader, wearing a tuxedo that cost more than Logan made in 6 months. You want to be a hero. You want to save her." He gestured at Grace, who was struggling to stand, her legs shaking like a newborn deer. "She doesn't need saving. She needs to learn respect. She needs to remember her place." Her place isn't on the floor bleeding. Preston's hand came out of nowhere. The slap caught Logan across the face with enough force to snap his head sideways. Pain exploded through his jaw, his cheek, his eye socket. The taste of copper flooded his mouth, but he didn't drop the phone. He kept it steady, kept it pointed at Preston's twisted face, kept that little red light burning. "You just assaulted me on camera," Logan said, through the blood pooling in his mouth, "in front of 200 witnesses." Witnesses. Preston spun in a slow circle, arms spread wide like a ringmaster. "I don't see any witnesses here. Do any of you fine people see any witnesses?" The silence that followed was different from before. This wasn't the silence of shock. This was the silence of calculation. Logan watched it happen across 200 faces in real time. Moral compasses being weighed against stock portfolios. Conscience being measured against country club memberships. Basic human decency being traded for business connections. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Nobody met Logan's eyes. Preston's smile spread across his face like oil on water. "That's what I thought. Now get out of my building before I have you arrested for trespassing and assault." "I work here." "Not anymore, you don't. You're fired. Security." Two men materialized from the shadows like they'd been waiting for this moment. Black suits, earpieces, faces blank as mannequins. They moved toward Logan with the smooth efficiency of people who'd done this before, many times before. "Wait." The voice was soft, but it sliced through everything like a blade through butter. Grace had made it to her feet. She leaned against a table, one hand pressed to her stomach, the other braced for balance. Her lips still bled. Her dress was torn at the shoulder. Preston whirled on her. "Sit down, Grace." "No." That single word hung in the air like smoke from a gun. Preston's face went from red to purple. "What did you just say to me?" "I said no." Grace's voice got stronger with each word, like she was remembering how to use it. She looked at Logan, and something passed between them. Recognition. Two people who'd finally reached the end of their rope and decided to hang on together. "He's right, Preston. You hit me, in front of everyone, and nobody said anything. Nobody did anything, except him." "Grace, if you don't sit down right now, I swear to God." "You'll what hit me again." Grace's laugh came out bitter and broken. "You do that every day, Preston. Every single day. The only difference is today someone finally saw it. Today someone finally had the guts to say something." The silence changed again. It was no longer complicity. It was shock. 200 people realizing they'd just watched something terrible and chosen their bank accounts over their souls. Preston lunged for Grace, but Logan stepped between them. The security guards grabbed Logan's arms, started hauling him backward toward the exit. His feet scraped against marble. But he kept the phone up, kept it pointed at Preston's face. That face that was on magazine covers and charity billboards and Dallas's most eligible bachelor lists. "Everyone's seeing this," Logan shouted as they dragged him past tables of untouched filet mignon and $700 bottles of wine. "Everyone's going to know what you really are. Nobody cares what a janitor thinks." Preston's voice cracked with rage. "Nobody cares about you. You're nothing. You hear me? Nothing." The ballroom doors slammed. The sound echoed like thunder. The security guards threw Logan into the service hallway hard enough that he bounced off the opposite wall. His shoulder hit concrete. Pain shot down his arm. His phone skittered across the floor, but he scrambled for it on hands and knees, grabbed it, clutched it to his chest like it was Caleb himself. "You need to delete that video." The bigger guard had a scar running across his jaw like a zipper. "Right now. For your own good." "No. Kid, I'm trying to help you here. You don't understand what he's capable of. He'll destroy you. He'll destroy your family. He'll salt the earth so nothing ever grows in your life again. He already did that. Logan got to his feet, legs shaking. His face throbbed where Preston had hit him. He could feel it swelling already. The moment he made me watch him hurt his pregnant wife and expected me to pretend I didn't see it. The second guard had his phone out. I'm calling the police. We're pressing charges. Trespassing, assault, attempted blackmail, invasion of privacy. You're looking at serious time. Good. Call them. Show them my video. Let them see what their most generous campaign donor does when nobody's watching. The guard hesitated. Logan saw something flicker in his eyes. Doubt, maybe. Or recognition. You have kids? Logan asked. The guard looked away. I have a son. He's 8 years old. He drew a picture of me last week with a cape. He thinks I'm a hero because I work hard and I come home every night and I read him stories before bed. How am I supposed to teach him to stand up for what's right if I can't do it myself? How am I supposed to look him in the eye? The guard with the scar turned his back. You should leave, now, before he changes his mind about being merciful. Logan walked to the service elevator on legs that felt like water. Behind him, he could hear shouting from the ballroom, Grace's voice rising above Preston's, but the words were muffled by the heavy doors. The elevator opened with a cheerful ding that felt obscene. He stepped inside and finally let himself collapse against the wall. His phone buzzed. Text from his sister Julia. Caleb's asleep. Everything okay? Logan looked at the video on his screen. Preston's face twisted with rage. Grace on the floor, blood on marble. The terrible complicit silence. His own voice small but steady. She's pregnant, sir. Please stop. He typed back with shaking fingers. Everything's fine. Be home soon. The lie tasted worse than the blood in his mouth. The elevator reached the parking garage. The doors opened onto the smell of oil and exhaust and concrete. His Honda Civic sat in the employee section surrounded by Mercedes and Teslas and BMWs that cost more than he'd make in a lifetime. He'd bought the Civic for $800 3 years ago. It leaked oil. The air conditioning was broken. The check engine light had been on for 6 months, but it was his. He sat in the driver's seat and let himself shake. Let himself feel the fear he'd been holding back with both hands. His cheek was swelling. His jaw ached. His hands trembled so badly he couldn't get the key in the ignition for 3 tries. What had he done? What had he just done to his life, to Caleb's life, to Julia's life? That job was everything. It paid for Caleb's school supplies and their rent and the insulin Julia needed for her diabetes. It was the difference between getting by and going under. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text said, I saw what you did. I got it on video too. You're not alone. Then another. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen in my life. Then another. Post it. Post the video. He can't hide from all of us. Logan sat in his car and watched the texts flood in. 5, 10, 20, 50. People from the gala who'd pulled his number from the employee directory. People who'd filmed it on their own phones. People who were tired of Preston Hawthorne getting away with everything just because his bank account had more zeros than their moral courage. His finger hovered over the upload button. He thought about Caleb's drawing on their refrigerator held up with a magnet shaped like a school bus. My dad the hero. He thought about Grace on the floor, her hand protecting her baby. He thought about Preston's face so certain that money and power meant he could do anything to anyone without consequences. Logan uploaded the video everywhere. YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Every platform he could think of. He titled it, Billionaire Preston Hawthorne beats pregnant wife at charity gala while Dallas elite watch and do nothing. Then he turned off his phone and drove home through empty streets while his hands finally stopped shaking. Caleb was asleep when he got there, curled in his bed with his stuffed elephant. Mr. Trunk clutched to his chest. Logan stood in the doorway and watched him breathe this perfect small human who still believed his father could change the world. Julia appeared beside him, her face creased with worry. "What happened to your face?" "I got fired." "Logan." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "What did you do?" He told her everything. The gala, the champagne, the slap that echoed through silence, the 5 words he'd said. Preston's rage, the recording, Grace's broken voice saying no for the first time, the security guards, the threats, the video uploaded everywhere. Julia's hand rose slowly to cover her mouth as he talked. When he finished, she was crying. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Logan, he's going to come after you. He's going to destroy us. We're going to lose everything." "Maybe, probably." Logan looked at Caleb sleeping peaceful and innocent. "But I couldn't just stand there and do nothing, Jules. I couldn't let Caleb grow up thinking that's what men do, that we just watch bad things happen and pretend we don't see them because it's easier, because it's safer." Julia hugged him hard enough to hurt. "You're an idiot. A brave, stupid, beautiful idiot." Logan's phone started buzzing even though he'd turned it off. It vibrated constantly in his pocket like something alive trying to escape. He pulled it out and powered it on. 3,000 notifications, 5,000, 10,000. The numbers kept climbing like a slot machine jackpot. "Logan," Julia's voice was strange. "Look at this." She held up her own phone. The video was everywhere. Everywhere. Trending #1 on Twitter. Front page of Reddit. News sites were picking it up in real time. Billionaire caught on camera assaulting pregnant wife, scrolled across CNN's breaking news banner. "It's going viral," Julia whispered. "Logan, it's going nuclear." Logan sat down on their sagging couch because his legs wouldn't hold him anymore. He watched the view count climb. 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. Comments flooded in faster than he could read them. People were sharing tagging, expressing outrage. The Dallas Police Department released a statement saying they were opening an immediate investigation. 3 different women's shelters posted offers of help for Grace. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered without thinking. "Mr. Price." Female voice, professional, urgent. "My name is Harper Quinn. I'm an investigative journalist with the Dallas Observer. I need to talk to you about what happened tonight." "I don't know if I should talk to anyone." Mr. Price Preston Hawthorne is one of the most powerful men in Texas. He's protected by money lawyers and fear. What you did tonight, standing up to him, recording him, that took incredible courage. But courage alone won't be enough. He's going to try to bury you. He's going to try to bury this whole story. I can help make sure that doesn't happen. Logan looked at Julia. She nodded. He thought about Grace's eyes, the blood on her lip, the way her hand had moved to protect her baby even while she was falling. "Okay," he said. "Let's talk." Harper Quinn arrived 40 minutes later. She was younger than Logan expected, maybe 35, with sharp, intelligent eyes that missed nothing. She set a recording device on his kitchen table next to Caleb's homework and Julia's insulin supplies. Julia made coffee that none of them would drink. Caleb slept on dreaming whatever 8-year-olds dream about, unaware that his father had just declared war on a billionaire. "Tell me everything," Harper said. "Start from the very beginning," Logan told her. About working at Hawthorne Tower for 3 years, always in the gray uniform, always invisible. About being the person who cleaned up after their parties, who emptied their champagne glasses, who heard their conversations because they never thought to lower their voices around the help. About the gala tonight. About Preston's hand connecting with Grace's face. About the terrible silence that followed. Did you know he was abusive before tonight? Harper's pen moved fast across her notepad. I suspected. We all suspected. Logan rubbed his swollen face. Grace would come to events with bruises she'd tried to cover with makeup. She wore long sleeves even in August. She'd flinch when he touched her, this tiny little flinch like she was bracing for impact. But nobody talked about it. It was like this open secret everyone agreed to ignore. Harper nodded, still writing. That's how it works with men like Preston. Everyone knows, but nobody says anything because he's too powerful, too rich, too connected. They're all afraid of what he might do if they speak up. What's he going to do to me? Harper set down her pen and looked at him directly. Honestly, he's going to try to destroy you completely. He'll hire investigators to dig through your entire life looking for dirt. He'll pressure your landlord to evict you. He'll make sure you can't get another job anywhere in Dallas. He'll sue you for defamation, invasion of privacy, whatever his team of lawyers can manufacture. He'll leak stories to the press painting you as mentally unstable, a stalker, someone with an agenda. He'll turn you into a cautionary tale, so nobody ever dares to challenge him again. That's great. That's really great. Julia made a small sound in her throat. But here's the thing, Logan. Harper leaned forward. You have something he doesn't. You have the truth. And right now, millions of people are watching that truth spread across the internet like wildfire. They're angry. They're organizing. Preston Hawthorne has spent his entire life making people afraid of him. You just made people angry at him instead. And anger is so much more powerful than fear. What do we do? Julia's voice was small. We tell the whole story, Harper said. Not just tonight. Everything. I want to investigate Preston Hawthorne from top to bottom. His business practices, his history with women, his pattern of abuse and intimidation. I want to expose everything he's been hiding behind his money and his lawyers and his power. But I need your help. I need access to people who work in that building, people who've seen things but were too scared to speak up. I'm just a janitor, Logan said. No. Harper's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. You're the man who stood up when everyone else stayed seated. You're the man who said 5 words that might bring down an empire. You're exactly the person we need to make this work. Logan looked at Julia. She squeezed his hand. He thought about Caleb asleep in the next room, dreaming of heroes. Okay, he said. Let's do it. Harper smiled for the first time. Good. Now I need you to think. Who else works in that tower? Who else might have seen something? Who else might be willing to... Logan's phone rang. Unknown number again. He almost didn't answer, but something made him hit the green button. The voice on the other end was male, low, and very calm. That kind of calm that was more terrifying than shouting. Logan Price. We know where you live. We know where your sister works. We know what school your son goes to, what time he gets dropped off, what route he walks home. You have 24 hours to delete that video from every platform and issue a public apology for your lies. If you don't, we'll make sure you regret ever learning Preston Hawthorne's name. This is your only warning. The line went dead. Logan's hand shook so hard he almost dropped the phone. Harper and Julia were staring at him. What? Julia asked. What did they say? Logan looked at his sister, then at Harper, then at the closed door to Caleb's room where his son slept peacefully, still believing his dad was a hero. They know where Caleb goes to school, he whispered. And suddenly, the war had become very, very real. Harper's hand shot across the table and gripped Logan's wrist. Don't panic. That's exactly what they want. They threatened my son. Logan's voice came out strangled. They know his school. They know. I know. I heard. Harper's eyes were hard as flint. This is standard intimidation protocol for men like Preston. They go after what you love most to make you comply. But here's what you need to understand right now. If you back down, if you delete that video and apologize, they win. And Grace loses. And every other woman he's hurt or will hurt in the future, they all lose. Julia stood up so fast her chair scraped against the linoleum. I don't care about other women right now. I care about Caleb. I care about my nephew sleeping 15 feet away from us. So do I. Harper released Logan's wrist and pulled out her own phone. Which is why we're going to do this smart. Logan, do you have somewhere safe you can take Caleb family out of state? Friends Preston's people won't know about. Logan's mind raced. His parents were dead. No siblings except Julia. His ex-wife was gone. Most of his friends were co-workers who'd just watched him get fired and wanted nothing to do with the fallout. "My Uncle Raymond," Julia said suddenly. "He lives in Arkansas, little town called Prescott. He's not on social media, doesn't have a computer. Preston's people would have no way to connect him to us." "Perfect. You both need to pack bags right now. Be ready to leave in 30 minutes. "We can't just run away," Logan said. "You're not running away. You're making a tactical retreat while I work the story from my end." Harper was already typing on her phone. "I have contacts at the police department, at women's shelters, at other news outlets. I'm going to light this story up so bright that Preston won't be able to touch you without the whole world watching. But I need time to build the case, and I need you safe while I do it." Logan looked at the closed door to Caleb's room. His son, who believed in heroes. His son, who'd never asked to be part of this war. "Okay," he said. "Okay, we'll go." "Good. Pack light. Bring Caleb's stuffed elephant whatever comfort items he needs. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Not friends, not neighbors, nobody. Use cash for everything, no credit cards they can trace. I'll call you on a burner phone once I have something solid." Harper stood to leave, but Logan caught her arm. "Wait, what about Grace? Is she safe?" Grace checked herself into Presbyterian Hospital an hour ago. Claimed she fell downstairs. They're examining her now, but Preston's lawyers are already there trying to control the narrative. Harper's jaw tightened. "I'm going there next. I'm going to try to talk to her, see if she'll give me a statement." "She won't. She's too scared." "Maybe. But she said no tonight, Logan. For probably the first time in years. You gave her that. You showed her what courage looks like. Sometimes that's all it takes to start a fire." After Harper left, Logan and Julia moved in silent coordination, born from 3 years of raising Caleb together. Julia packed clothes, medications, Caleb's schoolwork. Logan grabbed their important documents, birth certificates, social security cards, the envelope with $300 emergency cash he kept hidden in a coffee can. He stood in Caleb's doorway, watching his son sleep. 8 years old. Still believed in superheroes and magic, and that his dad could protect him from anything. How was Logan supposed to explain this? How was he supposed to tell Caleb they had to run away in the middle of the night because Logan had done the right thing? "Hey, buddy." Logan sat on the edge of the bed and gently shook Caleb's shoulder. "Wake up for me." Caleb's eyes opened slowly. "Dad? What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. We're going on an adventure. Remember Uncle Raymond in Arkansas? We're going to visit him." "Right now it's nighttime." "I know, but it's a surprise adventure. Can you be brave for me?" Caleb sat up, rubbing his eyes. Then he saw Logan's face in the dim light from the hallway, the swelling, the bruise forming the split in his lip. "Dad, you're hurt. What happened?" Logan took a breath. He'd promised himself years ago he'd never lie to his son, not about the big things. "I saw someone being hurt tonight, a woman, and I stood up to stop it. The person hurting her didn't like that very much." Caleb's eyes went wide. "Like a superhero." "Nobody. Not like a superhero. Just like a person who tried to do the right thing." "That's what superheroes do, Dad. They do the right thing even when it's scary." Caleb reached up and touched Logan's bruised cheek with gentle fingers. "Does it hurt?" "A little, but I'm okay." "Good." Caleb climbed out of bed and grabbed Mr. Trunk. "I'm ready for the adventure." 20 minutes later, they were in the Honda, pulling out of their apartment complex at 2 in the morning. Logan kept checking the rearview mirror for headlights following them. Every car made his heart jump. Every shadow looked like a threat. Julia sat in the passenger seat with her phone face down on her lap. "Don't look at social media," she said quietly. "It's getting ugly." "What do you mean?" "Preston's PR team is working overtime. They're saying you're a disgruntled employee with a history of mental illness who attacked him at the gala. They're saying Grace fell because she'd been drinking. They have witnesses backing up their version. Of course they do. Those witnesses probably have business deals with him. There's more. Julia's voice got quieter. They found your DUI from 10 years ago. They're making it sound like you're an alcoholic with violent tendencies. Logan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. That DUI had been the worst night of his life. Right after his wife left. He'd gotten drunk alone in their apartment, decided in his grief to drive to her mother's house to beg her to come back. Got pulled over 3 blocks from home. Spent the night in jail. Lost his license for 6 months. Had to take the bus to work while everyone whispered about him. That was one time. One stupid, terrible mistake 10 years ago. I know, but they're using it. They're building a narrative that you're unstable, that you have an agenda against Preston, that the video is doctored or taken out of context. There were 200 people there, Jules. 200 witnesses who saw exactly what happened. And how many of them are willing to go on record against one of the richest men in Texas? Julia turned to look at him. We're going up against an empire, Logan. We need to be ready for them to throw everything at us. In the back seat, Caleb had fallen back asleep, clutching Mr. Trunk. Logan watched him in the rearview mirror and felt the weight of what he'd done settle over him like a lead blanket. They drove through the night, out of Dallas, through small towns that were just dots on the highway, into the dark rural nothing between Texas and Arkansas. Logan kept the radio off. The silence felt safer somehow. Less chance of hearing his name on the news, hearing what new lies Preston's machine was manufacturing. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. His heart jumped, but he answered anyway. Logan, it's Harper. Don't say my name out loud, just listen. I got to Grace at the hospital. She wouldn't talk with Preston's lawyers in the room, but I slipped her my card. She texted me an hour ago. She wants to meet. That's good, right? It's very good, but it's also dangerous. Preston has people watching her. If she's seen talking to me, if he thinks she's going to contradict his version of events, I don't know what he'll do. Can you protect her? I'm working on it. I have a contact at a women's shelter, a place that specializes in high-profile cases. If Grace agrees to leave the hospital, we can get her there safely. But she has to want to leave Logan. I can't force her. She'll leave. She said no tonight. That was the hardest part. Everything after that will be easier. I hope you're right. How's the drive? We're about 2 hours from Raymond's place. Good. Stay there. Stay off social media. Don't talk to any reporters except me. Preston's team is going to try to bait you into saying something they can use against you. Don't give them ammunition. The call ended. Logan drove on through darkness, while Julia dozed in the passenger seat and Caleb snored softly in back. They reached Prescott, Arkansas, just as dawn was breaking. Uncle Raymond's house sat at the end of a gravel road surrounded by pine trees and silence. The old man came out on the porch before Logan even turned off the engine. He was 73, barrel-chested, wearing overalls and holding a coffee mug. Julia called ahead. Raymond said by way of greeting. Said you got yourself in some trouble. That's one way to put it. Raymond looked at Logan's bruised face, at Julia's worried expression, at Caleb rubbing sleep from his eyes in the back seat. Well, come on in. I got coffee and bacon. Everything looks better after bacon. The house smelled like wood smoke and old paper. Raymond's late wife had collected books, and they lined every wall in stacks that reached the ceiling. Caleb's eyes went wide. You got a lot of books, Uncle Raymond. That I do, son. You're welcome to read any of them. Just treat them gentle. They sat at Raymond's kitchen table while he cooked. Logan told the story again. The gala, the slap, Grace falling, the 5 words, everything after. Raymond listened without interrupting, just nodding occasionally and flipping bacon. When Logan finished, Raymond set a plate in front of him. Your daddy would be proud of you. My daddy would say I was an idiot for risking everything. Maybe. But he'd also say you did right. Your daddy couldn't stand seeing folks get hurt. Remember when you were 12 and those older boys were picking on that kid with the limp? Your daddy marched right over and put a stop to it. Didn't matter that those boys' fathers did business with him. Didn't matter that it cost him contracts. He did what was right. Logan had forgotten that. The memory came flooding back. His father standing up to 3 grown men at a construction site defending a kid he didn't even know. Coming home with a black eye but satisfied somehow. His mother had been furious, but his father had just shrugged and said, "Some things matter more than money." "I wish he was here," Logan said quietly. "He is. In you. In what you did last night." Raymond poured more coffee. "Now eat. Then you all need to sleep. You look like death walked over you twice." Logan's phone buzzed. Not a call this time, a notification. Against his better judgment, he opened it. The video had 20 million views. 20 million. Comments flooded in by the thousands. Most were supportive, calling him brave, calling Grace strong, calling for Preston's arrest. But mixed in were the other kind. Death threats. Accusations. People who believed Preston's narrative, who called Logan a liar, a fraud, someone staging drama for attention. One comment made his blood run cold. "We know where you live, Logan Price. 2247 Meadowbrook Apartments, Unit 12. How's your son Caleb doing at Jefferson Elementary? Would be a shame if something happened to him." Julia saw his face. "What is it?" Logan showed her the comment. She went pale. "They posted our address, Caleb's school. I'm deleting this." Logan started to remove the apps from his phone, but Raymond's hand stopped him. "Don't. That's what they want. They want you scared and silent." Raymond's voice was steel wrapped in gravel. "But you listen to me. Nobody's touching that boy. Not while he's under my roof. I got a shotgun older than you and I still know how to use it. Any of Preston Hawthorne's fancy hired thugs want to come down this gravel road, they'll find out country folks don't scare easy." Caleb looked up from his bacon. "Are we in danger, Dad?" Logan wanted to lie, wanted to protect his son from the fear that was eating him alive. But he'd promised. No lies about the big things. "Some people are angry about what I did last night. They're trying to scare us. But we're safe here with Uncle Raymond. I promise." "Because you're a hero." "Because I'm your dad, and protecting you is my job." Caleb seemed satisfied with that answer and went back to his bacon. But Logan caught Raymond's eye across the table and saw the worry there. They slept through the morning, all 3 of them crashed in Raymond's spare bedroom. Logan dreamed of Preston's face, of Grace falling, of Caleb's school on fire. He woke in a cold sweat to find Julia already up, pacing in the kitchen with her phone pressed to her ear. Okay, we'll wait to hear from you. Thank you, Harper." Julia ended the call and saw Logan. Grace left the hospital. What, when? 2 hours ago, she walked out against medical advice while Preston was meeting with his lawyers. Harper was waiting for her. They got her to the shelter safely. Logan felt something loosen in his chest. She's really out. She's really away from him. For now. But Harper says Preston is losing his mind. He's hired a team of private investigators. He's putting out statements claiming Grace is mentally unstable, that she's having a breakdown, that she needs psychiatric help. He's painting himself as the concerned husband trying to get his sick wife the help she needs. Of course he is. That's the playbook. Deny, attack, discredit. There's more. Harper says Grace wants to talk to you. Logan's phone rang like it had been waiting for that exact moment. Unknown number. He answered. "Mr. Price." The voice was soft, wavering, but unmistakable. "Grace Hawthorne." "Yes. Are you okay?" "I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever be okay again. But I'm out. I'm away from him. Because of you." Her voice broke. "Thank you. Thank you for seeing me, for helping me when nobody else would. You helped yourself. You said no. That was all you. I said no because you showed me it was possible. You, a stranger, stood up to him when 200 people who know me just watched." Grace took a shaky breath. "Harper says you're in trouble now, that Preston is coming after you." "I knew that would happen. It's okay." "It's not okay. None of this is okay." but I want to help. Harper says if I give a statement, if I go on record about what he's done, it could change everything. Grace, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I've been silent for 6 years. 6 years of bruises and broken ribs and walking on eggshells. 6 years of making excuses and covering up and pretending everything was fine. I'm done being silent. I'm done protecting him. Logan heard the steel in her voice and recognized it. The sound of someone who'd reached the end of their rope and decided to climb back up instead of letting go. What do you need from me? Harper says you might have evidence, that you worked in the building, that you saw things. Is that true? Logan thought about 3 years of cleaning offices after hours. 3 years of being invisible while the powerful talked like he wasn't there. 3 years of seeing things that made his stomach turn but staying quiet because he needed the job. I saw things, I heard things, but I never documented any of it. Could you remember it? Could you tell someone officially what you saw? Yes, but Grace, if you do this, if you go public, there's no taking it back. Preston will destroy you. He'll use every resource he has to discredit you, to paint you as crazy or vindictive or both. It's going to be hell. Grace laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. I've been living in hell for 6 years. At least this hell has an exit door. They talked for 20 more minutes. Grace told him things that made Logan's hands shake with rage. Not just the physical abuse, though, there was plenty of that. The psychological torture, the isolation. Preston had slowly, methodically cut Grace off from her friends, her family, her support system. He'd convinced her she was worthless, that nobody would believe her, that she was lucky he put up with her at all. I have proof, Grace said finally. Security cameras in our house. Preston doesn't know, but I have access to the footage going back 2 years. I've been saving it on a USB drive hidden in my gym bag. If I give it to Harper, if she releases it, everyone will see what he really is. Then do it. Give it to her. Let the world see the truth. I'm scared. I know. I'm scared too. But we're scared together, and that makes us stronger than him. After the call ended, Logan found Caleb in Raymond's library, curled up in an armchair, reading a book about knights and dragons. He looked so small in that big chair, so innocent, so perfectly unaware of the battle his father had just dragged them all into. Hey buddy, good book. It's about a knight who fights a dragon to save a princess, but the princess doesn't want to be saved. She wants to fight too. Smart princess. Dad. Caleb looked up with those huge brown eyes that saw everything. Are you fighting a dragon? Logan sat down next to his son. Sort of, yeah. Is the lady from last night the princess? In a way. And she wants to fight too. She does. Caleb nodded seriously, like this made perfect sense. Then you'll win, because in the stories when the knight and the princess fight together, they always win. Logan hugged his son close and hoped desperately that 8-year-old logic was right. That afternoon, Harper called again. Grace gave me the USB drive. Logan, you need to understand what's on here. It's bad. It's really, really bad. Tell me. There's footage of him hitting her, footage of him throwing her against walls, footage of him screaming at her while she curls up on the floor. There's audio of him threatening to kill her if she ever leaves. There's evidence of at least 15 separate assaults over 2 years. Harper's voice was tight. This isn't just domestic violence. This is attempted murder. Multiple counts. Can you use it? I can, but once I release this, there's no going back. Preston will know Grace gave it to me. He'll know you helped. He'll come after both of you with everything he has. Logan looked out Raymond's window at the pine trees, swaying in the wind. He thought about his father standing up to those men at the construction site. He thought about Caleb's drawing with the cape. He thought about Grace's voice saying, "Thank you for seeing me." "Release it," he said. "Release all of it." "Are you sure?" "No, but do it anyway." Harper's story went live at 6 p.m. Logan watched it spread across the internet like a wildfire in drought season. The USB footage was devastating. Video after video of Preston Hawthorne, the man who smiled from magazine covers and donated millions to charity, beating his pregnant wife in their own home. The comments section exploded. The view count climbed into the millions within an hour. The Dallas Police Department issued a statement. They were seeking Preston Hawthorne for questioning on multiple charges of assault and battery. A warrant had been issued for his arrest. Logan's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. News outlets wanting interviews. Lawyers offering to represent him. People he hadn't talked to in years suddenly reaching out. He ignored all of it except the call from Harper. "He's on the run," she said. "Preston took his private jet 3 hours ago. Nobody knows where he went. His lawyers are claiming he's seeking treatment for stress and exhaustion. It's damage control, but it's not working. The evidence is too strong. Public opinion has completely turned against him." What about Grace? "She's safe at the shelter. She gave a full statement to police. She's agreed to testify if it goes to trial." Harper paused. "Logan, you did it. You actually did it. You brought down one of the most powerful men in Texas." But Logan didn't feel victorious. He felt exhausted and scared and worried about what came next. "It's not over," he said. "Men like Preston don't just disappear. He'll come back. He'll fight this. Maybe. But now he's fighting from a position of weakness instead of strength. That's because of you. Because you saw something wrong and refused to look away." That night, as Caleb slept and Julia dozed on the couch and Raymond cleaned his shotgun in the corner, Logan sat on the porch and watched the stars come out over Arkansas. His phone buzzed one more time. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. But something made him. The voice on the other end was calm, cold, familiar. Preston Hawthorne. "You destroyed my life." Logan's heart hammered. "You destroyed your own life. I just showed people the truth. You'll pay for this, both of you. Grace thinks she's safe, but she's not. Neither are you. Neither is your son. I have resources you can't imagine. I can wait years if I have to, but I will make you pay." The line went dead. Logan sat in the darkness and realized the war wasn't over. It had only just begun. Logan's hands shook so badly he nearly dropped the phone. Raymond was beside him in seconds, shotgun lowered but ready. "What happened?" Preston called. "He threatened us. He threatened Caleb." Raymond's jaw tightened. "Get inside, now." They moved into the house, and Raymond locked every door, checked every window. Julia woke from the couch, saw their faces, and immediately went to stand guard outside Caleb's room. "We need to call the police," she said. "And tell them that a billionaire on the run made a vague threat over an untraceable phone." Logan paced the small living room. "They can't do anything. We don't even know where he is." His phone rang again. Harper this time. "Logan, something's happened. Something big. Preston called me. He threatened my family." "I know. I didn't know about the call, but I know he's desperate. That's why I'm calling. One of Preston's former employees just contacted me. Cole Bennett. Says he was head chef at Hawthorne Tower for 8 years. He wants to talk." Logan remembered Cole. Quiet guy, mid-40s, always had this tired look around his eyes. They'd shared smoke breaks sometimes in the service alley. Never talking much. Just two working men stealing 5 minutes of peace. "What does he want to talk about?" "Everything. He says he saw Preston assault multiple women over the years. Staff members, catering workers, even guests at events. Says Preston had a system. He'd corner them somewhere private, assault them, then pay them off or threaten them into silence. Cole kept records. Names, dates, amounts paid. He's been documenting it for years." "Why didn't he come forward before?" "His wife has cancer. Stage 4. Preston paid for her treatment, all of it hundreds of thousands of dollars. Cole stayed silent because speaking up meant his wife would die. But now, Harper's voice got quiet. "His wife passed away 3 days ago. He's got nothing left to lose and everything to gain by burning Preston's world down." "Where is he?" "That's the thing. He's still in Dallas. Says he won't run, won't hide. Says he's tired of being afraid. He wants to meet with me tomorrow. Go on record with everything he knows. But Logan, if Preston finds out Cole's talking, I don't know what he'll do. The man's already proven he's dangerous when cornered. Can you protect Cole? I'm trying. I've got a lawyer friend who specializes in whistleblower protection. We're working on getting Cole into a safe location before the interview goes public. But it's risky. Preston still has people loyal to him in Dallas. People who'd do anything to keep him out of prison. After Harper hung up, Logan sat at Raymond's kitchen table and put his head in his hands. Julia came and sat beside him. "This is getting too big," she said softly. "Too dangerous. Maybe we should just disappear. Change our names, move somewhere Preston can't find us. And let him win. Let him go back to hurting people because we were too scared to see it through. I'm thinking about Caleb Logan. That's all. Just Caleb." "So am I. Every second of every day. But what do I tell him when he's older? When he asks why we ran? What lesson does that teach him about standing up for what's right?" Julia was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. I just know I'm scared." "Me too." The next morning broke cold and gray. Logan woke to find Raymond already up sitting at the kitchen window with his shotgun across his lap and a mug of coffee going cold beside him. "Couldn't sleep," Raymond said. "Kept thinking about what you said, about your boy and lessons and doing right. I shouldn't have dragged you into this. You didn't drag me nowhere. I chose to help because that's what family does." Raymond took a sip of his coffee and grimaced. "Been thinking about Grace too. That woman's got more courage than half the men I know. Walking away from that kind of money, that kind of life, knowing what it'll cost her." "She didn't walk away from the money. She walked away from being killed. Same difference in some marriages." Logan's phone buzzed. Text from Harper. "Cole's interview is happening now. Going live in 1 hour. Get ready." "Ready for what?" Logan muttered. But he knew. Ready for Preston to see his empire crumble further. Ready for more threats, more danger, more eyes on them. Caleb shuffled into the kitchen in his pajamas, Mr. Trunk dragging behind him. "Dad, can we go outside? Uncle Raymond said there's a creek behind the house." Logan looked at Raymond, who nodded. "It's safe enough. Can see the whole property from here. Boy needs to be a boy, not locked up scared." So they went outside into the cold morning. Caleb ran ahead to the creek laughing when he found tadpoles in the shallow water. Logan stood on the bank and watched his son play this perfect innocent thing untouched by the ugliness of adult decisions and consequences. "Dad, look." Caleb held up a smooth black stone. It's shaped like a heart. Logan took the stone and felt its weight in his palm. "Keep it, for good luck." "Do we need good luck?" "Everybody needs good luck, buddy." They stayed by the creek for an hour before Julia called them back. Her voice was urgent. Logan's stomach dropped. Inside, Julia had her laptop open on the kitchen table. Harper's interview with Cole Bennett was streaming live. Cole sat in a nondescript room, his face gaunt, but determined. Harper sat across from him with her recorder between them. "Tell me about the first time you saw Preston Hawthorne assault someone," Harper said. Cole's voice was steady. "June 2017. I'd been working at the tower for 3 months. There was a young woman, maybe 22, worked in catering. I came back to the kitchen late one night to grab something I'd forgotten. Found Preston with her in the supply closet. She was crying, trying to push him away. He had her pinned against the wall." "What did you do?" "Nothing." Shame colored Cole's voice. "I froze. By the time I figured out I should do something, he'd let her go. She ran past me crying. Preston saw me standing there and just smiled, like it was nothing, like he knew I wouldn't say anything." "Why didn't you?" "Because 3 days later my wife got diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma, and 2 days after that, Preston called me into his office, told me he was sorry to hear about Sarah, said he wanted to help, offered to pay for her treatment, all of it through his foundation. The only condition was loyalty." Cole's hands clenched into fists on the table. I sold my soul to keep my wife alive, and I'd do it again. But Sarah's gone now, and I'm done being loyal to a monster. The interview went on for 40 minutes. Cole named names, gave dates, described assaults in clinical detail that made Logan's stomach turn. He produced documents, spreadsheets, emails. A paper trail of hush money and threats, and victims too scared to speak. "How many women?" Harper asked. "That I know about personally, 17 over 8 years. But I'm sure there are more. Women who never told anyone, who just quit and left and tried to forget. Preston had a type. Young, financially vulnerable, without powerful connections. People he could hurt and pay off and control." "Why are you coming forward now?" Cole looked directly into the camera. "Because I'm dying too. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. Doctors give me 6 months, maybe less. I spent 8 years protecting a predator to save my wife, and it didn't matter. She died anyway. I can't undo what I saw, what I let happen. But I can make sure everyone knows the truth before I go." The interview ended. Logan sat in stunned silence. Julia was crying quietly. Even Raymond looked shaken. Logan's phone exploded with notifications. The interview was going nuclear online. News outlets were picking it up. Social media was in an uproar. Within 30 minutes, 3 more former Hawthorne Tower employees came forward with their own stories, then 5 more, then a dozen. The floodgates had opened. Harper called. "Logan, it's happening. Everything's collapsing around him. The district attorney just announced they're pursuing multiple felony charges. Assault, battery, witness, intimidation, sexual assault. Preston's legal team is scrambling, but there's too much evidence, too many witnesses now." "Where is he?" "Still on the run. FBI's involved now since he fled across state lines. They've frozen his accounts, grounded his plane. He's got nowhere to go." "He'll come here. He knows where we are. He'll come for us." "Logan, you're in the middle of nowhere with an ex-Marine who's armed and ready. You're safer than you think." But Logan didn't feel safe. He felt like prey waiting for the predator to strike. That night passed slowly. Raymond insisted on keeping watch in shifts. Logan took the first one, sitting at the kitchen window with Raymond's shotgun across his lap and his phone charging beside him. Every sound outside made his heart jump. Every car that passed on the distant highway made him tense. Around midnight, headlights turned down their gravel road. "Raymond," Logan's whisper was urgent. "Someone's coming." Raymond appeared instantly, fully dressed despite the late hour. He took the shotgun and moved to the front door. Julia came out of the bedroom with Caleb behind her, both of them scared and sleepy. The car stopped at the edge of the property. A single figure got out and walked toward the house slowly, hands raised and visible in the headlights. "It's a woman," Raymond said. "Alone." Logan squinted through the window and his breath caught. "That's Grace." He unlocked the door and stepped onto the porch. Grace stood at the bottom of the steps, looking small and fragile in jeans and a borrowed jacket. Her face was still bruised from the gala. "How did you find us?" "Harper told me. I know I shouldn't be here, but I had to see you. Had to thank you in person." Grace's voice shook. "Everything that's happening, all these women coming forward, it's because you refused to look away. You saved my life, Logan. You saved all of us. You saved yourself. I just held up a phone. No, you did more than that. You showed me what courage looks like. You showed all of us." Grace climbed the steps. "Can I meet your son? The boy who has a hero for a father." Logan called Caleb over. His son came shyly, clutching Mr. Trunk. "Hi," Caleb said quietly. "Hi." Grace knelt down to his level. "Your dad is very brave. Did you know that—" "Yeah, he's my hero." "Mine too." Grace smiled, the first real smile Logan had seen on her face. "Thank you for sharing him with the rest of us." They talked on the porch while Raymond kept watch and Julia made coffee nobody would drink. Grace told them about the shelter, about the other women there, about slowly learning to feel safe again. "The baby?" Logan asked. Grace's hand went to her stomach. "Fine. Strong." The doctors say despite everything, despite all the stress and trauma, the baby's healthy. It's a girl. I'm going to name her Hope. That's a good name. It's the only name that makes sense. Grace looked at Logan with tears in her eyes. Preston took everything from me except hope. And now I have so much of it, I don't know what to do with it all. Around 2 a.m, Grace prepared to leave. She hugged Logan tightly. Be careful, she said. Preston's desperate and desperate men do terrible things. He's lost everything and he blames you for it. Don't underestimate what he might do. I know. Promise me something. When this is over, when he's in prison and we're all safe, promise me you'll let Caleb be just a kid again. Let him forget all this ugliness. I promise. Grace drove away into the darkness. Logan watched her taillights disappear and felt the weight of that promise settle on him. The next 3 days passed in a strange, suspended tension. More women came forward. More evidence surfaced. The FBI tracked Preston's movements through Canada, then lost him somewhere near the border. News cycles churned with speculation about where he'd gone, what he'd do next. Cole Bennett's health deteriorated rapidly. Harper visited him in the hospital, where he gave one final interview from his bed, his voice weak but unwavering. He apologized to every woman he'd failed to protect, named more names, provided more evidence. Then he closed his eyes and said he was tired. He died that night with Harper holding his hand. The funeral was small. Logan drove back to Dallas against everyone's advice because it felt important to honor the man who'd found his courage at the end. Cole's sister was there, a few friends, some former co-workers. Harper gave a eulogy about bravery and redemption that made everyone cry. After the service, Logan stood by Cole's grave and thought about courage. How it wasn't about not being scared. It was about being terrified and doing it anyway. Cole had been scared for 8 years, but he'd found his voice when it mattered most. He was a good man in an impossible situation, Harper said beside him. Don't let anyone tell you different. He helped bring Preston down. That counts for something. It counts for everything. They were walking back to their cars when Logan's phone rang. Unknown number. His blood ran cold. Don't answer it, Harper said, but Logan was already pressing the green button. Logan Price. Preston's voice was different now. Ragged, desperate, unhinged. I'm watching you right now. Standing in a cemetery like you're some kind of hero. Like you didn't destroy everything I built. Logan's head whipped around, searching the cemetery grounds. Where are you? Close enough. Close enough to make you understand what you've cost me. My company's gone. My reputation's destroyed. My wife betrayed me. My employees turned on me. And it's all because you couldn't mind your own business. You did this to yourself. Every bit of it. No, you did this. You and Grace and that dying traitor Cole. But I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix everything. Preston, turn yourself in. It's over. There's nowhere left to run. I'm not running anymore. I'm coming for what's mine. The line went dead. Logan grabbed Harper's arm. He's here. He's somewhere close. Logan, there's no way he could... The gunshot cracked through the cemetery like thunder. Logan hit the ground instinctively, pulling Harper down with him. Another shot, then another. Gravestones exploded in puffs of marble dust. Run! Logan shouted. They scrambled toward the cars, staying low. More shots rang out, but the angle was wrong, the shooter too far away to be accurate. They reached Harper's car and dove inside. She gunned the engine, and they roared out of the cemetery. Call the police! Logan shouted. Harper already had her phone out. Yes, shots fired at Restland Cemetery, multiple shots. We're okay, but the shooter's still there. She gave the address and hung up. Logan, he's lost his mind. He's going to kill someone. We need to get back to Arkansas. We need to get to Caleb. They drove straight through 6 hours of checking mirrors and jumping at every car that got too close. Logan tried calling Julia, but she didn't answer. He tried Raymond. No answer. His heart climbed into his throat. "They're fine," Harper said, but her voice was tight. "They're probably just out of cell range. Raymond's place is remote." They reached Prescott as the sun was setting. Logan's Honda was still in Raymond's driveway, but the house was dark. Too dark. No lights in the windows, no smoke from the chimney. "Stay in the car," Logan said. "Not a chance." They approached the house carefully. The front door hung open, moving slightly in the breeze. Logan's stomach dropped. "Julia, Raymond, Caleb." Silence. Logan stepped inside, and his heart stopped. The living room was destroyed. Furniture, overturned books scattered everywhere, Raymond's shotgun on the floor. But no blood. No bodies. "Logan!" Harper's voice was strangled. She held up a piece of paper from the kitchen table. The note was written in Preston's handwriting, each letter carved deep into the paper like wounds. "You took everything from me. Now I've taken everything from you. Come find them. Come alone, or they die." Below that was an address in Dallas, a warehouse district near the Trinity River. Logan's world tilted sideways. His son, his sister, Raymond. Preston had them all. "Call the police," Harper said. "Call the FBI. Call everyone." The note says, "Come alone." "Logan, you can't. He'll kill you. He'll kill all of you." "Maybe. But if I don't go, he'll definitely kill them." Logan picked up Raymond's shotgun from the floor. "Call the police. Tell them where I'm going. But give me a 30-minute head start." "This is insane. This is all I have left." Logan drove back toward Dallas with his foot pressed to the floor. His mind spun with terrible images. Caleb scared and crying. Julia trying to protect him. Raymond fighting back and getting hurt. Every horrible possibility played out in his head on an endless loop. His phone rang. Preston again. "You got my message. If you hurt them, I'll kill you myself." Preston laughed a sound like breaking glass. "You'll try. Come to the warehouse. Come alone. We'll settle this like men. Winner takes all." "What does that mean?" "It means you and me, Logan. One-on-one. You win, they go free. I win well. You won't be around to care what happens after." "This is insane, Preston. You're insane." "No, I'm desperate. There's a difference. Desperate men are dangerous, Logan. You made me desperate. Now you'll see what that costs." The line went dead. Logan drove on through the darkness toward Dallas, toward the warehouse, toward whatever ending Preston had planned. He thought about Caleb's drawing with the cape, about his promise to Grace, about his father standing up to those men at the construction site. Some things matter more than money. Some things matter more than safety. Some things you fight for even when you know you might lose. He reached the warehouse district as midnight approached. The address Preston gave led to an abandoned building near the river windows, broken walls covered in graffiti. One dim light burned in a window on the second floor. Logan grabbed the shotgun and stepped out of his car. The night was cold and still. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. Harper had called it in. Help was coming. But would it come fast enough? He walked toward the warehouse door. It creaked open under his hand. Inside was darkness and the smell of rust and river water. "Preston." Logan's voice echoed through the empty space. "I'm here. Let them go." A light clicked on above. Preston stood on a metal catwalk, and beside him, tied to chairs, were Julia, Raymond, and Caleb. Caleb was crying, his small face streaked with tears. Julia's lip was bleeding. Raymond looked dazed, a bruise spreading across his temple. "Dad!" Caleb's voice broke Logan's heart. "I'm here, buddy. It's going to be okay." Touching. Preston's voice dripped with venom. He held a gun pointed casually at Caleb's head. "The hero arrives to save the day. Except this isn't a fairy tale, Logan. This is real life, and in real life, heroes die." Logan raised the shotgun. "Let them go, Preston. This is between you and me." "Oh, it's definitely between us. You destroyed my life, piece by piece. My company, my reputation, my freedom. And for what? For her? Preston gestured wildly. For Grace. She's nothing. She's worthless. Everything I gave her, and she throws it away because you made her think she mattered. She does matter. They all matter. Every woman you hurt, every person you threatened, every life you tried to control. They all matter more than your empire. Lies. Preston's scream echoed through the warehouse. I built something, I created jobs, donated millions, made Dallas better, and you tore it all down because of one little slap. It wasn't one slap. It was 8 years of torture. It was 17 women assaulted. It was a system of violence and fear and abuse. Logan took a step forward. You did this to yourself, Preston. Every bit of it. No. Preston's hand shook as he pressed the gun harder against Caleb's head. You did this, so now you choose. Put down the shotgun and come up here, or I pull this trigger and you watch your son die. Logan looked at Caleb's terrified face, at Julia sobbing, at Raymond struggling against his bonds. He lowered the shotgun to the floor. Okay, I'm putting it down. Just don't hurt him, please. Preston smiled. That's better. Now come up here, slowly. Logan climbed the metal stairs to the catwalk. Each step felt like walking to his own execution. But if it meant Caleb lived, if it meant his son got to grow up and be happy and forget this nightmare, then it was worth it. He reached the top. Preston grabbed him by the collar and pressed the gun against his temple. You know what the funny thing is? Preston whispered. After I kill you, nobody will believe them. 3 witnesses, sure. But a diabetic woman, an old man with dementia and a traumatized child. Their word against mine. I'll say you attacked me. Say I shot you in self-defense. My lawyers will make it all go away. Your lawyers abandoned you. Your money's frozen. You have nothing left. I have this gun. That's enough. Logan closed his eyes and thought about Caleb's laugh, about bedtime stories and crayon drawings and the way his son said, I love you, Dad, every single night. If these were his last moments, that's what he wanted to remember. The warehouse doors exploded inward. FBI dropped the weapon. Agents flooded in tactical gear and rifles and flashlights cutting through the darkness. Preston's head whipped around in confusion. His grip on Logan loosened for just a second. Logan moved. He drove his elbow into Preston's stomach, twisted away from the gun. They grappled on the catwalk. Preston was stronger, but Logan was desperate. They slammed against the railing. The gun skittered across the metal platform. Below, agents were cutting Julia Raymond and Caleb free. Above, Logan and Preston fought for their lives on a narrow catwalk 50 feet up. Preston's fist connected with Logan's jaw. Stars exploded. Logan staggered back against the railing. Preston charged. Logan moved. Preston's momentum carried him forward over the railing, and suddenly he was falling. Falling. His scream cutting off with a terrible wet thud. Logan collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. Below, agents surrounded Preston's motionless body. Above, Caleb was crying. Dad! I'm okay, buddy. They got Logan down from the catwalk. EMTs checked him over while FBI agents swarmed the scene. Harper arrived with Dallas PD, her face flooded with relief. Julia hugged Logan so tight he couldn't breathe. You idiots, she sobbed. You stupid, brave idiots. Raymond clapped Logan on the shoulder with his good hand. Your daddy would be proud, son. Real proud. But Logan only had eyes for Caleb. His son ran to him, and Logan scooped him up, held him close, breathed in the smell of his hair. I was so scared, Dad, Caleb whispered. I know, buddy. But it's over now. It's all over. Did you win? Did the knight and princess win? Logan looked across the warehouse at the organized chaos at Grace, who'd just arrived, and was standing by the door with tears streaming down her face, at Harper, documenting everything with her phone, at all the women whose lives had been shattered, and were now being slowly pieced back together. Yeah, he said quietly. Yeah, buddy, we won. Preston Hawthorne died on the warehouse floor before the ambulance arrived. Skull fracture, internal bleeding gone before anyone could save him. Not that anyone particularly wanted to. The FBI agent who checked his pulse just shook his head and called for the coroner. Logan sat on the back of an ambulance with a blanket around his shoulders, while EMTs cleaned the cuts on his face. Caleb wouldn't leave his side pressed against him like he was afraid his father would disappear if he looked away for even a second. "Mr. Price, we need to take your statement." The FBI agent was young, professional, sympathetic. "I know this has been traumatic, but the faster we document everything, the better." "He saved our lives." Julia's voice was fierce. "Preston kidnapped us, threatened to kill us. Logan came here to save us. That's all you need to know." "Ma'am, I understand, but there are procedures we have to follow. A man is dead." A man who was pointing a gun at an 8-year-old child's head. Harper appeared with her phone and recorder. "I have footage of the entire confrontation. I was streaming from outside the warehouse. You want a statement? I've got video evidence of everything." The agent's expression shifted. "You filmed it?" "Every second. Preston's threats, the kidnapping victims, Logan defending himself. It's all documented. Want to see?" They huddled around Harper's phone. The footage was grainy, but clear enough. Preston's rage, his gun pressed against Caleb's head, Logan climbing the stairs with his hands up. The FBI bursting in, the fight on the catwalk, Preston charging Logan, moving gravity doing the rest. "This is self-defense," the agent said finally. "Clear cut. We'll still need formal statements from everyone but Mr. Price. You're not being charged with anything. You're a victim here, not a perpetrator." Logan felt something inside him finally release. He'd been holding his breath for days, maybe weeks, and now he could finally exhale. Grace approached slowly, her hands twisted together. "Logan, can I talk to you?" He nodded and stood, keeping Caleb's hand in his. They walked a few feet away from the chaos of flashing lights and officials documenting the scene. "He's dead." Grace's voice was flat, emotionless. "Preston's dead." "Yeah. I should feel something, right? Relief or sadness or guilt. Something. But I just feel empty." "That's normal. He tormented you for 6 years. Your brain needs time to understand he can't hurt you anymore. He almost killed your son because of me. Because I finally said no. This is my fault." "No." Logan's voice was firm. "This is Preston's fault. Every bit of it. He chose violence. He chose rage. He chose to hurt people instead of facing consequences. You didn't make him do anything. You just stopped protecting him from himself." Grace touched her stomach where her daughter was growing. "What do I tell her? When she's old enough to ask about her father? What do I say?" "You tell her the truth. That her father was sick in ways medicine couldn't fix. That he hurt people. But that her mother was brave enough to walk away and give her a better life. Will she hate me for it? She'll love you for it. Trust me." Grace hugged Logan carefully like he was made of glass. "Thank you. For everything. For seeing me when nobody else would." "You're going to be okay, Grace. You and Hope both." She pulled back and smiled through tears. "Hope. Yeah. We're going to be just fine." The next few hours blurred together. Statements to FBI, to Dallas PD, to Child Services who needed to make sure Caleb wasn't traumatized beyond repair. Julia gave her account between sips of orange juice, her blood sugar dangerously low from stress. Raymond described being ambushed at his own home, knocked unconscious, waking up tied to a chair in a warehouse. "Should have heard me coming," Raymond said ruefully. "Getting old, I guess. Time was I could hear a mouse sneeze from 50 yards. "You did fine, Uncle Raymond," Julia said. "You're alive. That's what matters." By the time they finished, dawn was breaking over Dallas. The warehouse district looked different in daylight, less menacing somehow. Just abandoned buildings and empty lots waiting to be redeveloped. Harper pulled Logan aside as they were preparing to leave. "I'm writing the final piece. The whole story from beginning to end. Preston's death, the kidnapping, everything. But I need to know if you're okay with me using Caleb's name. I can keep him anonymous if you prefer." Logan looked at his son, currently asleep in Julia's arms, with Mr. Trunk clutched tight. "Keep him out of it. He's been through enough. This shouldn't follow him forever." "Done. What about you?" "You're going to be famous after this, Logan. The janitor who brought down a billionaire. Every news outlet in the country is going to want your story." "I don't want to be famous. I just want my son to be safe." "I know, but the story's already out there. You don't get to control that anymore. You can either tell it yourself or let other people tell it for you." Logan rubbed his face, exhaustion hitting him in waves. "Then you tell it. You were there for all of it. You documented everything. Tell the truth, Harper. That's all I ask. Just the truth. That's the only thing I know how to write." They drove back to Raymond's place in convoy. Logan, Julia, and Caleb in the Honda. Raymond in his truck. Harper following in her car. Nobody wanted to be alone. Nobody wanted to let the others out of sight. Raymond's house looked the same but felt different. Violated somehow. The front door still hung crooked where Preston had kicked it in. Books were still scattered across the living room floor. "I'll fix the door tomorrow," Raymond said. "Tonight we all just need to sleep." But sleep didn't come easy. Logan lay in the guest room with Caleb curled against his side, listening to his son's breathing. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Preston's face twisted with rage, saw the gun pressed against Caleb's head, saw that terrible moment when Preston went over the railing. "Dad?" Caleb's voice was small in the darkness. "Yeah, buddy. Is the bad man really gone?" "Yeah, he's really gone." "Good." Caleb was quiet for a moment. "Dad, are you sad that he died?" Logan thought about that. Was he sad Preston had been a monster, but he'd also been a human being? Someone's son, once, maybe someone's friend. Before the money and power twisted him into something cruel. "I'm sad that he couldn't be better," Logan said finally. "I'm sad that he chose to hurt people instead of help them. But I'm not sad that he can't hurt anyone anymore." "Me neither." Caleb snuggled closer. "Dad, you're still my hero. Even though I was scared. Especially because you were scared. Heroes are always scared. That's what makes them brave." Logan held his son and felt tears slip down his face in the darkness. 8 years old, and already wiser than most adults. The next morning brought a media circus. News vans lined Raymond's gravel road. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Raymond stood on his porch with his shotgun and told them all to get the hell off his property or face buckshot. "This is private land. You're trespassing. I got rights and I know how to exercise them." Most of the reporters backed off. A few persistent ones stayed until Raymond actually fired a warning shot into the air. Then they scattered like birds. Harper's article went live that afternoon. Logan read it on his phone, while Caleb played with Raymond's old collection of toy soldiers. The article was everything Harper promised. Truth unflinching and complete. Preston's crimes, the women he'd hurt, Cole's testimony. Grace's courage. And Logan the janitor who'd said 5 words that changed everything. The comments section exploded. Thousands of people sharing their own stories of abuse of powerful men who got away with violence of times they wished someone had been brave enough to intervene. The article got shared millions of times. News outlets picked it up. Talk shows called. Logan ignored them all. 3 days later, the district attorney held a press conference. All charges against Preston Hawthorne were being dropped posthumously, but the DA wanted to make one thing clear. The evidence against Mr. Hawthorne was overwhelming. Had he lived to stand trial, we would have pursued maximum sentences on all charges. Assault, battery, kidnapping, attempted murder, and conspiracy. The women he victimized deserved to have that stated publicly. Preston Hawthorne was a criminal. His death doesn't change that fact. Grace watched the press conference from the women's shelter surrounded by other survivors. When it ended, she turned to the woman beside her, someone who'd been staying there for months after escaping her own abusive husband. "You can do it too," Grace said. "You can leave. You can be free. I'm not brave like you." "I wasn't brave. I was terrified. I'm still terrified. But I learned that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing it anyway." The woman looked at Grace's bruised face, at her swollen belly, at the quiet strength in her eyes. "How did you know it was time?" "Someone saw me. Really saw me. Not the version I pretended to be at parties, but the real me underneath. The one who was dying slowly every day. And that person refused to look away. That's what gave me the courage to save myself." That night, the woman packed her bags and left her abusive husband. She was the first of many. Over the next few weeks, Grace's story inspired hundreds of women to leave dangerous situations. Domestic violence hotlines were flooded with calls. Shelters filled to capacity. Women who'd been silent for years finally found their voices. Harper won the Pulitzer Prize 3 months later for her investigative series on Preston Hawthorne and institutional corruption protecting abusers. She accepted the award wearing a purple ribbon, the symbol of domestic violence awareness. "This prize isn't mine alone," she said in her acceptance speech. "It belongs to every woman who found the courage to speak. To Grace Hawthorne, who walked away from millions to save herself and her daughter. To Cole Bennett, who used his dying breaths to tell the truth. And to Logan Price, a janitor who taught us all that courage doesn't care about your bank account or job title. It only cares about your willingness to act when action is needed." Logan watched the ceremony from Raymond's couch with Caleb asleep against his shoulder. He felt proud of Harper, grateful for her friendship, but mostly he just felt tired. The kind of bone-deep exhaustion that came from holding tension for too long. "You should call her," Julia said. "Congratulate her." "I will. Tomorrow." "You should also think about what comes next, Logan. We can't hide in Arkansas forever." "Why not? It's nice here. Caleb likes it. Raymond likes having us." "Because Caleb needs to go back to school. Because I need to find work. Because you need to figure out what you're doing with your life now that you're not a janitor anymore." That was the thing nobody wanted to talk about. Logan had become accidentally famous. The janitor who took down a billionaire. His face was recognizable now. People stopped him in grocery stores to shake his hand, to thank him, to tell him he was an inspiration. He hated every second of it. "I just want things to go back to normal," Logan said. "There is no normal anymore. There's only whatever comes next." What came next arrived 2 weeks later in the form of a phone call from a woman named Victoria Chen, director of the Dallas Coalition Against Domestic Violence. "Mr. Price, I'll be direct. We want to hire you." "As a janitor," Victoria laughed. "As an outreach coordinator, someone who speaks to groups about domestic violence, who helps train people to recognize signs of abuse, who works with survivors. Your story resonated with millions of people. We want to use that to help others." "I'm not qualified for that. I'm just a guy who held up a phone." "You're a man who saw something wrong and refused to look away. That's exactly the qualification we need. The job pays $45,000 a year, full benefits, and you'd be making a real difference. Think about it." Logan thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "When do I start?" "Next month. We'll need to do some training first, background checks, the usual. But Logan, welcome to the team." He told Caleb that night at dinner. His son looked up from his spaghetti with sauce all over his face. "So we're going back to Dallas." "Yeah, buddy, back home, back to your school, your friends, back to normal." "Will people be mean to us because of what happened?" "Maybe. Probably. But we'll deal with it together." "Okay." Caleb went back to his spaghetti, like this was just another day, just another change. Kids were resilient that way. They bent instead of breaking. They moved back to Dallas 3 weeks later. Their old apartment was still available miraculously. The landlord had held it for them, refusing other applicants. "You did a good thing," he'd said. "Least I can do is make sure you have a home to come back to." Caleb's first day back at school was hard. Some kids stared. Some parents whispered. But Caleb's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, gathered the class and told them straight. Caleb's dad is a hero. He stood up to a bad man to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. If anyone has a problem with that, they can come talk to me. Otherwise, we're going to treat Caleb exactly like we treat everyone else, with respect and kindness. Understood? The kids nodded. Kids were simple that way. They accepted things adults made complicated. Logan started his new job the following Monday. The Dallas Coalition offices were small but bustling, full of social workers and counselors and volunteers. Victoria showed him around, introduced him to the team, explained his role. "You'll do speaking engagements mostly. Schools, community centers, corporate events. We've already got 15 requests for you. Everyone wants to hear the janitor who took down Preston Hawthorne." "I didn't take him down. He took himself down." That's exactly the kind of thing you should say when you speak. People need to understand that abusers create their own destruction. Victims just stop protecting them from consequences. Logan's first speaking engagement was at a high school in South Dallas. 200 teenagers packed into an auditorium, most of them looking at their phones or talking to friends. He stood at the podium and felt his hands shake. "Hi, my name is Logan Price. 3 months ago, I was a janitor. Today I'm here to talk to you about courage." The kids looked up. Phones went down. He had their attention. Courage isn't about being big or strong or powerful. It's about seeing something wrong and refusing to look away, even when looking away would be easier, even when looking away would be safer, even when everyone around you is choosing silence. He told them about the gala, about Grace on the floor, about the 5 words that changed everything. He told them about Preston's threats about hiding in Arkansas, about the warehouse. He told them the truth, unflinching and complete. When he finished, a girl in the front row raised her hand. "Mr. Price, my dad hits my mom. I've called the police twice, but she always tells them she fell or walked into a door. What do I do?" Logan's heart broke. "You keep trying. You tell a teacher you trust. You call domestic violence hotlines. You document everything you can. And you remember that your mom's situation isn't your fault. You can't make her leave, but you can make sure she knows there's help available when she's ready." More hands went up. More stories. More questions. By the time Logan left that school, he'd given out 47 hotline cards and talked to a dozen kids one-on-one about their home situations. "You're good at this," Victoria said when he got back to the office. "Really good. I just tell the truth. That's what makes you good at it." Grace had her baby in April. Hope Elizabeth Hawthorne came into the world screaming and healthy, all 8 pounds of righteous fury. Grace held her daughter and cried tears of joy and relief and grief all mixed together. "She'll never know him," Grace said when Logan came to visit at the hospital. "She'll never have to be afraid of him. That's a gift, not having to unlearn fear. Will you be her godfather? Both of you, you and Harper. I want Hope to grow up knowing the people who saved her mother's life." Logan looked at the tiny baby in Grace's arms and felt something shift inside him. This was why he'd stepped forward that night, not for fame or recognition or justice, though those came too, but for this, for one more child growing up safe and loved and free from violence. "Yeah," he said. "Yeah, we'd be honored." Harper arrived an hour later with flowers and tears. She held Hope with the careful terror of someone who'd never held a baby before. "She's so small. What if I break her?" "You won't break her. She's tougher than she looks, just like her mom." Grace smiled. "Just like all of us." They stood together in that hospital room. 3 people who'd been strangers 4 months ago, now bound together by trauma and courage and hope. Outside, Dallas went about its business. News cycles moved on. Preston Hawthorne became a cautionary tale instead of a headline. But inside that room, holding that baby, they knew the truth. Change didn't happen in grand gestures or dramatic moments. It happened in small decisions. In 5 words spoken when silence would be easier. In one woman finally saying no. In one journalist refusing to let truth be buried. In one dying man finding his voice at the end. "What are you thinking about?" Harper asked Logan. "I'm thinking about my dad, about what he taught me, that some things matter more than money, more than safety, more than comfort." "Like what?" "Like doing right. Like protecting people who can't protect themselves. Like being the person your kid thinks you are." Grace adjusted hope in her arms. "Your dad would be proud of you, Logan." "I hope so. I really hope so." 6 months later, on a cool October evening, Logan stood in front of 200 people at the opening of the new Dallas Center for Domestic Violence Prevention. The building had been funded by donations that flooded in after Harper's article, after Preston's death, after the world saw what one person's courage could accomplish. Grace cut the ribbon with hope in a carrier on her chest. Harper took photos for the article she was writing. Julia stood beside Logan, with Caleb, both of them dressed up for the occasion. Raymond had driven in from Arkansas, still grumbling about cities, but secretly proud. "This center represents hope," Grace said in her speech. "Hope that we can build something beautiful from tragedy. Hope that speaking up matters. Hope that one person's courage can inspire thousands more. Hope that my daughter and every child like her will grow up in a world where violence isn't tolerated, where silence isn't expected, where help is always available." The crowd applauded. Flashbulbs popped. News cameras recorded. But Logan only watched Caleb, his son, who still believed in heroes, who still drew pictures with capes, who still thought his dad could change the world. Maybe he couldn't change the whole world. But he'd changed Grace's world, and Cole's world before he died. And every woman who'd called a hotline, or left an abusive situation, or finally told someone the truth about what was happening behind closed doors. After the ceremony, as people mingled and congratulated each other, a woman approached Logan nervously. She was young, maybe 30, with a black eye poorly covered by makeup. "Mr. Price, I saw your video, the one from the gala. I've watched it probably 100 times. I'm glad it helped." "It did more than help. It saved my life. I left my husband last week. I'm staying at a shelter right now. I'm terrified and broke, and I don't know what comes next. But I'm alive. Because I saw you stand up to Preston Hawthorne, and I thought if a janitor can stand up to a billionaire, maybe I can stand up to my husband." Logan felt tears burn his eyes. "You're incredibly brave." "No, you're brave. I'm just trying to survive." "That's the same thing. Survival is the bravest thing there is." The woman hugged him quickly and disappeared back into the crowd. Logan watched her go and felt the weight of responsibility settle on him like a cloak. How many more women were out there? How many more victims waiting for someone to see them, to believe them, to give them hope that escape was possible? He couldn't save them all. But he could keep trying, keep speaking, keep showing up, keep being the person who refused to look away. "Dad," Caleb tugged on his sleeve. "Can we go home now? I'm tired." "Yeah, buddy, let's go home." They walked to the parking lot together, Logan's hand in Caleb's, Julia and Raymond following behind. The Dallas skyline glittered in the distance, all those buildings full of people with secrets and struggles and silent suffering. But somewhere in that city, a woman was making a plan to leave. Somewhere, a victim was calling a hotline. Somewhere, someone was refusing to be silent anymore. And somewhere in a small apartment on the east side, a picture still hung on the refrigerator. A janitor with a cape. "My dad the hero," written in crooked crayon letters. Logan looked at Caleb and squeezed his hand. "I love you, buddy." "I love you too, Dad. Forever and ever." Forever and ever. They drove home through Dallas traffic as the sun set behind them, painting the sky orange and gold and purple. Tomorrow, Logan would give another speech. Tomorrow, Grace would take Hope to her first checkup. Tomorrow, Harper would publish another story about another victim finding courage. But tonight, they would just be people who'd survived something terrible and come out the other side changed, but not broken. Scarred but healing. Tired but hopeful. Tonight, that was enough. 1 year later, Logan stood in the bathroom of his apartment, staring at his reflection in the mirror. The bruises from that night at the warehouse had faded months ago, but sometimes he could still feel them. Ghost pains that surfaced when he thought too hard about what had almost happened. "Dad, you're going to be late." Caleb's voice came from the kitchen. Aunt Julia made pancakes and they're getting cold. Logan splashed water on his face and went to join his family. The apartment was small, but it was theirs, filled with the comfortable chaos of daily life. Caleb's homework scattered across the coffee table, Julia's knitting basket by the couch, the refrigerator covered in drawings and report cards and photos, and there in the center that original crayon drawing. My dad the hero, faded now, edges curling, but still holding its place of honor. "Big day today," Julia said, sliding pancakes onto his plate. "You nervous? Terrified?" "Good. You should be." Today was the trial. Not Preston's trial, he was dead and beyond justice, but the civil trial against Hawthorne Industries, filed by 17 women seeking damages for the company's role in covering up Preston's abuse. Grace was testifying. So was Logan. So were a dozen other witnesses who'd finally found the courage to speak. Logan's phone buzzed. Text from Harper. "Heading to courthouse now, media circus already forming. You ready?" He texted back. "No, coming anyway." The courthouse steps were packed with reporters and cameras and protesters carrying signs. Some supporting the victims, demanding justice and accountability. Others defending Preston's legacy, calling the whole thing a witch hunt. Logan kept his head down and pushed through the crowd with Julia and Caleb flanking him. "Mr. Price, Mr. Price, how do you feel about testifying today? Will you be seeking damages personally? Do you have any regrets about that night at the gala?" Logan ignored them all. Inside the courthouse, Harper waited with Grace and their legal team. Grace looked tired, but determined, Hope sleeping peacefully in a stroller beside her. "They're trying to settle," Grace said without preamble. "Hawthorne Industries. They're offering $20 million to be split among all plaintiffs if we agree to drop the suit and sign NDAs. "That's not enough," Logan said. "I know, but some of the women want to take it. They're exhausted, Logan. They just want it to be over." "What do you want?" Grace looked down at Hope now, 1 year old, with Preston's dark hair but Grace's gentle eyes. "I want the truth on record. I want a jury to hear what that company did, how they protected him, how they paid off victims and threatened witnesses. I want it in the public record so it can never be erased or forgotten. But I also want these women to heal, and if settling helps them heal, then maybe that's more important than my need for public vindication." "It's not just your need," Logan said. "It's everyone's need. If Hawthorne Industries settles with NDAs, they'll do it again. Different CEO, same playbook. Protect the powerful silence, the victims pay enough money to make problems disappear. I know. That's why I'm voting to go to trial. But I can't make that choice for everyone else." The women met in a conference room to vote. 17 survivors of Preston's abuse, ranging from early 20s to late 50s. Some were still visibly traumatized, jumping at loud sounds, unable to make eye contact. Others had found their anger and wore it like armor. Logan waited outside with Caleb while they deliberated. His son was doing homework math problems that seemed impossibly complex for a 9-year-old. "Dad, if you have 17 women and each one needs $20 million, how much is that total?" Logan did the math. $340 million. "That's a lot of money." "It is." "Is money going to make them feel better? The ladies who got hurt?" Logan thought about how to answer that. "Nobody. Money can't fix what happened to them. But it can help them rebuild their lives. Pay for therapy, cover bills while they heal, give them security so they don't have to stay in bad situations because they can't afford to leave. Like how you couldn't leave your job at the tower because we needed money." Logan looked at his son, startled by the observation. "Yeah, exactly like that. So money doesn't buy happiness, but it buys choices." "That's a pretty wise way to put it." The conference room door opened. Grace emerged, looking exhausted. 14-3. We're going to trial. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Logan testified on day 4, walking through that night at the gala, step by step. The defense attorney tried to discredit him, bringing up his DUI from a decade ago, suggesting he had a grudge against Preston, implying he'd staged the whole confrontation for attention. "Mr. Price, isn't it true you were fired from Hawthorne Tower the night of the alleged assault?" "I was fired, yes." "And isn't it possible you were motivated by revenge, by a desire to harm Mr. Hawthorne's reputation?" "I was motivated by watching a man beat his pregnant wife while 200 people pretended not to see it." "But you admit you had personal animosity toward Mr. Hawthorne." "I had animosity toward any man who hits women. If that makes me biased, then I'm guilty as charged." The courtroom murmured. The judge called for order. Logan stepped down from the witness stand and found Caleb in the gallery, giving him a thumbs up. Grace testified on day 8. She spoke for 6 hours about her marriage, about the abuse that started small and escalated, about living in constant fear. She described injuries in clinical detail: broken ribs, concussions, a miscarriage at 12 weeks that Preston caused by shoving her down a flight of stairs. "Mrs. Hawthorne, why didn't you leave sooner?" The defense attorney's voice dripped with judgment. "Because I was terrified. Because he controlled all the money. Because he told me every day that I was worthless, that nobody would believe me, that if I left, he would destroy me and everyone I loved. Because leaving an abuser is the most dangerous time for a victim. The statistics show that. Most women who are killed by their partners are killed when they try to leave." "But you had resources. You were married to a billionaire." "His resources, not mine. The money was always his. The house was in his name. The cars, the accounts, everything. I had nothing of my own. That was by design." Financial control is one of the most effective tools of abuse. "Mrs. Hawthorne, did you love your husband?" Grace was quiet for a long moment. "I loved who I thought he was. I loved the man he pretended to be in public. Charming, generous, successful. But that man was a mask. Underneath was someone capable of terrible cruelty. So no, I didn't love my husband. I loved an illusion." The defense rested their case on day 14. Their argument was simple. Preston Hawthorne was dead and couldn't defend himself. The company wasn't responsible for one man's personal behavior. The women suing were opportunists trying to cash in on tragedy. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Logan spent those 48 hours pacing his apartment, unable to eat or sleep or focus on anything else. Julia tried to distract him with movies and card games. Caleb made him drawings of superheroes. Nothing helped. On the 3rd day, the verdict came in. The courtroom was packed. Logan sat between Harper and Grace, all 3 of them holding hands so tight their knuckles went white. The jury foreman stood. "In the matter of Hawthorne Industries versus Grace Hawthorne and 17 other plaintiffs, we the jury find in favor of the plaintiffs on all counts." The courtroom erupted. Crying, cheering, shouting. The judge hammered his gavel for order, but nobody was listening. Grace collapsed into Logan's arms, sobbing. Harper was crying too, her recorder forgotten on the table. Damages are assessed at $460 million to be paid by Hawthorne Industries to the plaintiffs as the court determines fair distribution. $460 million. More than they'd asked for. The jury had looked at the evidence, heard the testimony, and decided that Preston Hawthorne's crimes deserved the harshest possible financial punishment. Outside the courthouse, Grace gave a statement to the assembled press with Hope on her hip, and Logan standing beside her. "This verdict doesn't bring back the years we lost. It doesn't undo the trauma we survived. But it sends a message that abuse isn't a private matter, that companies can't look the other way when their executives harm people. That silence has a cost, and from now on, that cost will be paid by those who choose silence over action." "Mrs. Hawthorne, what will you do with your portion of the settlement?" "I'm establishing a foundation, the Lights Foundation we're calling it. It will provide resources for domestic violence survivors, legal aid, housing assistance, job training, therapy. Everything I wished I'd had when I was trying to escape. Everything that might have helped me leave sooner. And I'm going to help run it, Logan added. Along with Harper Quinn and other advocates, we're going to make sure every dollar goes directly to helping people rebuild their lives. A reporter in the back shouted, "Mr. Price, you've become a symbol of everyday heroism. How does that feel?" Logan looked at Caleb standing with Julia at the edge of the crowd. His son waved at him, grinning. "I'm not a hero. I'm just a father who tried to do the right thing. The real heroes are these women who survived years of abuse and still found the courage to seek justice. The real heroes are people like Cole Bennett, who used his dying breaths to tell the truth. I just held up a phone. They did everything else." The foundation opened 6 months later. A converted building in downtown Dallas with counseling offices, legal services, a children's play area, temporary housing for women in crisis. On opening day, Logan stood at the door greeting visitors with Grace beside him. "How many women do you think we can help?" Grace asked. "As many as need us, however long it takes." The first woman through the door was young, maybe 25, with a black eye and a toddler clinging to her leg. She looked terrified. "Is this the place? The place that helps women like me?" Grace knelt down to the toddler's level. "Hi, sweetie. What's your name?" "Emma." The little girl's voice was barely a whisper. "Hi, Emma. I'm Grace. Would you like to see our playroom? We have toys and books and snacks." The woman started crying. "I don't have any money. I can't pay you." "You don't need money," Logan said gently. "You just need to be ready to save yourself. We'll help with the rest." They brought the woman and her daughter inside, got them settled in a safe room, connected them with a counselor and a lawyer, started the long process of helping them build a new life. By the end of the first month, the foundation had served 43 women and 62 children. By the end of the first year, those numbers had grown to over 300 families. Women came from all over Texas, drawn by Grace's story, by Logan's example, by the simple promise that help was available without judgment or cost. Logan's speaking engagements increased. He traveled to schools and corporations and community centers across the country telling his story, teaching people to recognize signs of abuse, encouraging bystanders to intervene. At a high school in Houston, a boy raised his hand during the Q&A. "Mr. Price, my friend's dad hits her. She made me promise not to tell anyone. What do I do?" "You tell someone anyway. I know you promised. I know you don't want to betray your friend's trust. But keeping that secret could cost your friend her life. Tell a teacher, a counselor, a trusted adult. Let them handle it from there. Your job isn't to save her. Your job is to make sure she has the chance to save herself." At a corporate training in Seattle, a woman approached him after. "Mr. Price, I'm a manager. One of my employees has been coming to work with bruises. When I ask about it, she says she's clumsy. But I don't think that's true. What should I do?" "Document everything. Keep records of the bruises, the excuses, any concerning behavior. Provide resources quietly. Leave domestic violence hotline numbers in the bathroom. Send company-wide emails about benefits that include counseling. Create opportunities for her to talk if she wants to, but don't force it. Leaving has to be her choice. You can just make sure she knows she has options when she's ready." The questions never stopped. Every venue, every speech, every interaction brought new stories of abuse and desperation, and people trying to help, but not knowing how. Logan answered every question, took every meeting, responded to every email. It was exhausting, but it mattered. Every person he educated was one more potential intervention. One more life possibly saved. Caleb adjusted to his father's new life with the resilience of childhood. He was proud when kids at school recognized Logan from news articles. He understood when his dad had to travel for work. He never complained about the attention or the pressure. But sometimes late at night, Logan would find him awake in bed staring at the ceiling. "Can't sleep, buddy. I keep thinking about that night at the warehouse, about the bad man with the gun." That was a long time ago. He's gone. He can't hurt us anymore. But what if there are other bad men? What if something happens to you when you're traveling? What if I lose you? Logan climbed into bed beside his son like he used to when Caleb was little. I can't promise nothing bad will ever happen. Life doesn't work that way. But I can promise I'll always fight to come home to you. I can promise you're the most important thing in my world. And I can promise that even if something did happen to me, you'd be okay. You're strong, Caleb. Stronger than you know. I don't feel strong. Nobody does. We just do the best we can with what we have. Caleb was quiet for a moment. Dad, are you happy now with the new job and the foundation and everything? Logan thought about that. Was he happy? The work was hard. The stories he heard were heartbreaking. The trauma of what he'd been through still surfaced at unexpected moments. But he was making a difference. Real, measurable difference in people's lives. Yeah, buddy, I'm happy. Not every minute of every day. But overall, yeah, I'm happy. Good. That's all I wanted to know. On the 1-year anniversary of Preston's death, Grace organized a remembrance ceremony. Not for Preston, but for all the victims of domestic violence who didn't survive. The ones who never got a chance to escape, whose stories ended in tragedy instead of justice. Hundreds of people gathered at the Dallas Center for Domestic Violence Prevention. Survivors, advocates, family members of victims. They lit candles and read names and shared stories. Logan stood with Grace and Harper and felt the weight of all those lost lives. Sarah Bennett, someone read. Killed by her husband in 2019 after 17 years of abuse. Maria Rodriguez. Killed by her boyfriend in 2020. She was 23 years old. Jennifer Thomas. Killed by her ex-husband in 2018. She had just filed for divorce. The names went on and on. A litany of loss of women who'd run out of time before they could run away. Logan thought about how easily Grace could have been one of those names. How close they'd all come to a different ending. After the ceremony, a woman approached Grace hesitantly. She was older, maybe 60, with gray hair and tired eyes. Mrs. Hawthorne, my daughter was one of the women your husband hurt. She was too scared to come forward during the trial. She killed herself 6 months ago. I just wanted you to know that what you did speaking up, it mattered. Even though it came too late for my Emma, it mattered. Grace hugged the woman, while both of them cried. Logan stood nearby, giving them space but ready to support if needed. This was the reality of their work. For every woman they saved, there were dozens they couldn't reach. For every success story, there were tragedies that would haunt them forever. But they kept going. What else could they do? 2 years after that night at the gala, Logan got a call from a producer in Los Angeles. They wanted to make a movie about his story. A major studio, A-list actors, the full Hollywood treatment. We see this as an inspirational drama, the producer said. The everyday man who stands up to power and changes the world. Very Aaron Brockovich meets John Q. I'm not interested in being played by an actor. Mr. Price, this story needs to be told. Millions of people could be inspired by it. Think about the impact. Logan thought about Grace trying to rebuild her life while being recognized everywhere she went. He thought about Caleb dealing with kids at school who'd seen his father's face on TV. He thought about turning their trauma into entertainment. No, he said. This isn't a story. These are real people's lives. We're not interested in Hollywood's version of events. The producer tried to argue, but Logan hung up. Harper called 5 minutes later. Did you really turn down a movie deal? I did. Why, that could have been huge exposure for the foundation for the cause. It also could have turned real survivors into characters, real abuse into plot points. Some things shouldn't be entertainment. Harper was quiet for a moment. You're right. I'm sorry I questioned it. Don't be sorry. Just help me figure out how we reach more people without selling out what we stand for. They figured it out together. A documentary instead of a drama focused on multiple survivors rather than making Logan the hero. A book of essays written by the women themselves. Not ghost-written or sanitized, but raw and real. A training program for businesses and schools that Harper developed based on her research. The work continued. The foundation grew. More women found safety. More children grew up without violence. More bystanders learned to intervene instead of looking away. Caleb turned 12. Then 13. He grew tall and thoughtful, inheriting his father's conscience and his mother's wherever she was quiet strength. He volunteered at the foundation on weekends, playing with children in the safe house, helping stock donated supplies, listening to Logan's speeches until he could recite them by heart. Dad, do you ever wish you'd just walked away that night, that you'd stayed invisible like everyone else? They were sitting on the apartment balcony watching the sun set over Dallas. The same city where Logan had once been, nobody where he'd cleaned up after the powerful and pretended not to see their crimes. Every day, I wish it hadn't been necessary. That someone else had stepped up. That Grace hadn't been married to a monster. That those women hadn't been hurt. But do I regret what I did? Never. Not for a second. Even though it put us in danger. Even though we almost died. Even then. Because we didn't die, Caleb. We survived. And because we survived, hundreds of other people survived too. That matters more than our comfort or safety or peace of mind. That's a heavy responsibility. Yeah, it is. But you know what I learned? Heavy things are easier to carry when you're not carrying them alone. 3 years after the gala, Grace got remarried. A kind, gentle man named Marcus, who taught middle school and didn't care about her money or her past or her famous name. He loved her and Hope, and that was enough. Logan stood as Grace's man of honor at the small ceremony, walking her down the aisle, because her own father had disowned her for divorcing Preston. Hope was the flower girl, now 3 years old and full of joy that no trauma could touch, because her mother had saved her from ever knowing her father's violence. At the reception, Grace pulled Logan aside. "Thank you for everything, for seeing me that night, for refusing to look away, for standing beside me through all of this. You would have made it without me. Maybe, eventually. But you made it possible for me to leave sooner. You gave me hope when I had none left. That's everything, Logan. That's literally everything. You're going to be happy now, with Marcus and Hope. You're going to have the life you deserve. We all are. You too. Have you thought about dating? Julia says you haven't been on a single date since all this started." Logan laughed. "I've been a little busy saving the world." "The world can wait. You deserve happiness, too." Maybe she was right. Maybe it was time to think about building his own life instead of just helping others rebuild theirs. But for now, watching Grace dance with her new husband while Hope giggled in Harper's arms, Logan felt content. This was enough. This moment, this victory, this proof that good could triumph even when it seemed impossible. The Foundation's 5-year anniversary arrived with ceremony and celebration. They'd helped over 2,000 women and 3,000 children. They'd changed laws, influenced policy, trained tens of thousands of people in bystander intervention. They'd created a model that was being replicated in 15 other cities. Logan gave a speech to the assembled crowd of donors and survivors and advocates. Caleb, now 14, stood beside him at the podium. 5 years ago, I was a janitor. I was invisible. I cleaned up other people's messes and stayed quiet and did what I was told. Then one night, I saw something I couldn't ignore, and I made a choice. Not because I was brave or special or heroic, but because I was a father who wanted to teach his son that silence in the face of evil is itself evil." He put his hand on Caleb's shoulder. "My son taught me that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being terrified and acting anyway. It's about seeing someone who needs help and refusing to look away even when looking away would be easier, even when it would be safer, even when everyone around you is choosing silence." Caleb looked up at his father with tears in his eyes. "These 5 years have been hard. We've heard stories that broke our hearts. We've lost people we couldn't save. We've faced threats and criticism and exhaustion that never seems to end. But we've also seen miracles. We've watched women reclaim their lives. We've seen children grow up safe and loved. We've witnessed what's possible when people choose courage over comfort. The crowd erupted in applause. Grace stood up first, then Harper, then one by one everyone rose to their feet. Logan looked out at all those faces, all those survivors and allies and believers in second chances. "So here's to 5 more years," he said. "To 500 more years if that's what it takes. To a world where domestic violence is treated like the crime it is. Where victims are believed and supported instead of blamed and silenced. Where bystanders become upstanders. Where everyone has a safe place to call home." He raised his glass. To hope. To healing. To all of us lighting up the darkness together. They drank and cheered and celebrated late into the night. Logan stood on the balcony watching the party inside, Caleb beside him like always. "Dad, you changed the world. You know that, right? We changed one corner of it. Together. There's still a lot more work to do. But we'll keep doing it. Right? Right." They stood together watching the Dallas skyline, this city that had witnessed so much pain and was now witnessing healing. Somewhere out there, a woman was making a plan to leave. Somewhere a child was sleeping safely for the first time in months. Somewhere, someone was choosing courage. And somewhere in a small apartment, a crayon drawing still hung on a refrigerator. Faded now, the tape yellowing, but still holding its place of honor. "My dad, the hero." Logan looked at his son and squeezed his shoulder. "I love you, buddy. Forever and ever. Forever and ever, Dad." The lights of Dallas twinkled below them like stars fallen to earth. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new stories of pain, new opportunities to help. But tonight, they would rest. Tonight they would celebrate how far they'd come. Tonight they would remember that one person can light up the world. And when that person refuses to stand alone, when they build something bigger than themselves, that light can spread until the whole world glows with hope. Logan Price had been invisible once. A janitor in a gray uniform that nobody noticed. Now he was someone who mattered. Not because he'd become famous or successful or powerful, but because he'd seen someone who needed help and refused to look away. That was enough. That would always be enough. One person, one moment, one choice to do what was right instead of what was easy. The rest was just details. The rest was just love and work, and the slow, patient business of making the world a little bit better than they'd found it. And that, Logan thought as he held his son close, was the best kind of hero there was. The everyday kind, the invisible kind, the kind that didn't need a cape because their courage spoke for itself.